Going to be talking about delegation this morning, and I think reason for doing that is I put a post up on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and it was one of my blog posts, which was all about the importance of the art of delegation, and how as a business owner and someone looking to grow the business, it's absolutely essential that you learn to delegate and start delegating as quickly as possible. And there was quite a few comments on the thread, and a guy called David English. Hey David, actually asked me a few questions. I've got my notes here, so you have to excuse me. But David wrote under the comments. He wanted to know how and when should a business owner know when to delegate. Also, as a business owner, you're responsible for putting the bread on the table, not just of yourself but of others as well. So how do you know when it's time to take the risks and to let go? And how should you mitigate these risks when letting go as well? So they're the things we're talking about. When's the right time to delegate? What are the risks, and how do you mitigate those risks? This is the second time that I've been live on this lately, and for anybody who tries to follow my social stuff, I've been trying to get into this live a bit more lately, and the main reason is getting to repurpose content that I can use time and time again on different social channels, because again, a big thing people talk about with the socials, I haven't got time to do this, or I haven't got time to do the other. But what you'll actually find is if you do your content in certain ways, you can get to reuse it. So like this video now, for example, I'll do it live. We're doing it live on Facebook. There's a couple of people watching. Hey Karen, hey Dean. And you know what, I'm realistic. There's not going to be dozens and dozens of people who watch this while we do it live. But once it's finished, it'll be there evergreen on Facebook. I'll also be able to repurpose it to use on Instagram, repurpose it to be able to use on YouTube, so I can get 3, 4, 5 pieces of content out of the same video. So that's why we're going live. But anyway, let's get back to talking about delegation. So these are the answers to your questions, David. First of all, in terms of how or when a business owner should delegate, I think for me, everything with delegation starts with the importance of having that growth mindset. Anyone who follows my content or who knows me knows very much that for me, any business I'm involved with is very much about scaling it, growing it, and making it bigger. And to be the only way you're going to be able to do that is to delegate effectively, and to grow your team. So the two most important things to me are recruitment and growing that team, and then delegation of the tasks within it. Before you can even start to delegate, you've got to get your head around that around that growth mindset, and that delegation in the early days on a lot of tasks might feel like you've taken a step backwards. You might feel like things are not getting done as well as you would do them. But if you want to grow the business in the long term, then you've got to be able to delegate. One of David's questions was, when is the time to delegate? When is the right time? And for me, that right time is ASAP. It's immediately. You want to be delegating as many tasks as possible. The right tasks, which we'll come on to in a minute. But you want to be delegating as many tasks as possible, as soon as humanly possible, because your job as the business owner needs to be delivering income, growing the business, scaling the business, and you need to have as much time freed up for that as humanly possible. I'm just going back to my notes. In terms of things that can be delegated, the two things for me are, one is anything that can be done better by someone else, and also secondly, anything that can be done cheaper by somebody else. Now, when we say things that can be done better by someone else, that one really does take a lot of people to take a step back and be really honest about the situation, because how many times have you thought yourself, and I'm guilty of it also, or do you see other people think that nobody can do anything as well as they can do it, and that's often a big barrier for people people being able to delegate as well. They think, oh, I can't give this task away because nobody can do it as well as I do. And in those tasks, it's important to decide which are the right ones that that really only you can do, because again, if you wanted to grow the business, I think you've got to get your head around the concept that often getting something 90% right, or even less, to me even 80% right, you're better off having more people doing more of your tasks and freeing you up. And you're better off having people getting something 80% right, 85% right, than having all the responsibility and all the tasks for you to do yourself. Hey Oliver, thanks for watching, buddy. When it comes to, so that's things that people can do better than you. Secondly, things that people can do cheaper than you. And and I think for me as well, this isn't just in business. This is in life in general. I think, certainly as a business owner, if you can employ somebody to do something cheaper than it would cost you, well, not necessarily you, but an ethos you can kind of push down the rungs of your business. So if you as a CEO can employ a manager to do something cheaper than you, and that will therefore free your time up to to continue to grow the business. Or if that manager can then employ some underlings to be able to do things cheaper than he can do, so he can then grow that team, and everyone can kind of push that growth mindset through the business. Now, and I think when I say that also applies to personal life, I think so many times people at home will look at tasks that they do themselves and say that that they do them themselves because they can't afford for anybody else to do them, or it's a complete luxury that if they paid somebody else to do it. And ironing, for example, you guys are all going to have your own things. Like I don't do my own cleaning. I don't do my own ironing. And you know what? Yes, that's certainly because I'm terrible at doing both of them. But I say this with no ounce of disrespect whatsoever to anyone who's going to do my ironing or cleaning. But I know that my time from a monetary perspective is more valuable than being spent doing the ironing. If I go out and spend 3, 4, 5, 6 hours doing my ironing, and to be perfectly honest, get it absolutely horrendous, how much more money could I have made if I was concentrating on the business during that time? Hey Ian, hey Paul, thanks for joining, guys. Anyone who has just joined, we're talking about delegation today because of a post, an article I'd written on LinkedIn about the importance of delegation, and a couple of people have been commenting underneath, wanting to know some of my comments on how's the right time to delegate, when is the right time to delegate. So I'm making it as a video, and as I was saying earlier as well, I'm doing it live because I then get live content, and I can then repurpose this content to use later as an evergreen video on Facebook, and also get it copied across to my YouTube channel. And for anyone who hasn't already been on my YouTube channel, get over there. It's at youtube.com/Matt Haycox, MattHaycox, and there's all videos like this about my business tips, finance tips, raising money, growing your business, etc. But back to delegation. One of the things that David asked me was, as a business owner, being responsible for putting the money, for putting the food on the table of yourself and the table of others. How do you know when to take the risk? And for me, that's not even a question. As far as the right time to take the risk, is at the very beginning. I think if you're not taking the risk, if you're not delegating, then you're putting as much risk or strain on the business as if you were delegating at the wrong time. You've just got to get your head around it from the outset, that if you ever want to grow that business, you've got to be delegating. I think it's like anything, you're going to take risks in business, and it's about making sure that the risks you take aren't going to ultimately bring the business down. Like if you delegate some tasks and somebody gets them wrong, or somebody doesn't do them as well as you, as long as those tasks aren't absolutely fundamental to the business and aren't going to pull the shop down overnight, then you're much better off taking the risk early in the game to to give that responsibility, and to give that ability and potential to the team to grow it. What's Oliver saying? Oliver, you'll give me an inbox later. All right, buddy. I will look forward to receiving that. What else have I got? Excuse me, going back to my notes. But when I started to think about this morning, I actually ended up writing about 2 pages of things to talk about. Reasons people don't delegate. I mean, a couple of comments there. I think often people don't delegate because they think it's going to take too long to train somebody else. And look, a lot of tasks. There's no question about it. Delegation takes a lot of upfront effort, but if these are repetitive tasks, often if it's a one-off task, it's not worth you putting in the upfront effort. But if these are tasks that are going to be repeated time and time again in the business, then you're going to be much better off putting that upfront effort in, and then being able to reap the rewards further down the line when your time is freed up to be able to do whatever it is that is a better use of your time as a business owner. Obviously, another reason people don't delegate is that they think that nobody can do things better than themselves. And again, this is something I covered a little bit earlier on. But you've got to get out of that ego mentality where a lot of the time people actually can do things better than you think you can do them. But then secondly, and potentially more importantly, even if they can't do them as well as you, if you want to grow that business, having lots and lots of soldiers doing something 80-90% as well as you can do it is much better than you being run ragged, doing everything to 100% ability, but having no time to grow the business and to take on any of the other tasks that are much more important to you as a business owner. What else is on here? Other delegation tips I've jotted down. Focus on results and not procedures. I mean, look, you're going to have your own ways of doing things, and that is not necessarily going to be the same way that other people do things. But ultimately, what's important here is the end result. The end result of you being able to be an effective delegator, and also the end result of what the actual task at hand is like when it's completed. So as long as it's done to the standard you want it and on time, then don't get caught up in worrying about the fact that the way that other people have done that task is not the same way that you've done it. So focus on results, not procedures. What else? Don't be put off when people are doing things slower than you. Again, that could be quite an off-putting thing early in the delegation game. You give somebody a task and they're really slow at it, or they haven't done it as well as you would have done, and it's very easy to go, oh God, this is so annoying, I'm going to take it back off them. Nobody can do it as well as me. But this keeps going back to what I've been saying, that the delegation is going to take some upfront effort, and that upfront effort is often going to be the acceptance of annoyance. But fight through it. As long as you've got the right people doing the tasks, and you've trained them in the right way, given them the right tools, then ultimately, being a bit slower in the early days is going to reap rewards and pay dividends in the long term. Haley Otway, thanks for joining, buddy. Every time I see you on Facebook, we keep saying we're going to have to get together. It must have been 10 years, 15 years now, and we definitely have got to make 2019 our chance to catch up. What else? When you're delegating, it's very important to be clear. You don't want any ambiguity further down the line, with the task or with the results. So be very clear to the people who you're giving that task to exactly what is expected of them in terms of time, in terms of results. Any of your expectations, set it all out from the beginning, and that there can be no ambiguity and fallout further down the line. I think it's very important to realise, you can delegate responsibility, but you can't delegate accountability. And yes, it's your job to delegate to these people the tasks that you want doing, but ultimately, as a business owner or as a manager, the buck still stops with you. So you may have delegated the tasks, for the long-term good, but if you're not managing that art of delegation and things cock up, then ultimately it's still your accountability, and it's still your problem to fix at the end of the day. And what else? And I think, and finally, I think you've got to realise you want to avoid upward delegation. So by that, what I mean is, if you pass a task down, if for whatever reason it's not going well, avoid either taking it back up to you or allowing the people you've delegated it to want to push it back up to you. And again, this goes back to the fact where we say that a lot of the time it's slower in the beginning than it would have been if you'd done it yourself. But if you give a task down to somebody else and things aren't going right or there's problems along the way, you've got to put that effort in again to help them get out, to help them fix the problem, or to help them think for themselves to be able to fix the problem and get over the situation, so that this isn't going to happen second time round, third time round. If this is one of these repetitive tasks that is going to be better for somebody else to be doing, or even if it's just for the growth of that member of staff, of that employee, of that person, give them the tools to fix the problem, but don't fix it for them. I think that's about it for me, guys. So I'm going to go and enjoy the sun, which I'm sure you guys in England are going to be doing as well. I don't know how hot it is over there, but it's nice and warm out here. You can see well, you can't really see anything. It's too bright. But that was it. That was the video on some delegation tips. So thanks for David English for asking the question. Hope you guys have found some things that you can use in there. Like I say, this video, as well as being live, will also go up on my YouTube channel. So if you don't follow me on YouTube, please go on over there. If you like this video, comment below. Go and comment on some of my other ones on YouTube. And if you don't like it, still comment below, because I want to try and give you guys the things that you want to watch and you want to learn about. And you guys can learn from the many, many mistakes I've made over the years, and I can save you the grief and I can save you the money I've lost. So I hope that helps.